Hello everyone, welcome back to Woodfire Smoke. If you'll recall, if you watched some of my video series, I did a video on where I bought a whole pork loin from Costco, and I broke it down as to save money that you can, because you can cut that up, butcher it yourself, and saves you a lot of money. Because that whole loin, I believe it was $14, and I'm just going to show you one of the recipes with one of the parts that we're going to do with it. The boneless rib roast cut from that it's just an example of all the different meals that you can make from that one piece of meat. So anytime you're cooking pork, especially a loin, you're going to want to brine it, because pork loin is very lean piece of meat, and we want to put some moisture in it. So what we did is we got a cup of salt, cup of sugar, and then just fill this bowl up with water, mix it up real well, and we put the pork in there to let it sit for 24 hours. So now what we want to do is pour that off. So it's a nice part about being outside. And then we want to rinse it off because it's still got a lot of salt on it. And we don't want it to be, we want to control our salt content. So let's take a little water and rinse that off real well. Now, this is super easy. Take it down. We're going to use meatchurch's honey hog barbecue rub, because I wanted this anytime I'm cooking with pork, just about any time. I like to have a sweet heat type of flavor profile, and this is absolutely perfect for that. So you can put a binder on this if you wanted to. We're going to cook this hot and fast, so I don't think it has time to cook down, so I really wouldn't do it unless it's going to be something like an olive oil or maybe a spray like a Pam or avocado oil spray or olive oil spray, something along those lines. But since we just pulled this out and it's wet, this is going to work just fine as a binder. So we're going to take and just cover this thing liberally, pat it in. It's another humid day, so there we go. That's exactly what I was expecting. It's coming out in clumps because there's so much humidity in the air, but you can still work through it. Get a good even coating on it. Make sure you get the ends, because these, when the ends cook up, to me, are just the best pieces. Pat that in. And as you can see, normally you'd let this sit for about 10 or 15 minutes to let this thing, the rub to set in it. But it's so humid out here, it's already sweated in. So that's about all we're going to do to it right there. And I'm going to take this and put it straight in the smoker. Got the smoker set at 300 degrees. A lean piece of meat that doesn't have a lot of marbling in it. You want to cook it hot and fast, and because you're not breaking down any of the fats and collagens. And if you cook it slow, you're just going to dry it out. So we're going to cook this piece hot and fast. Set it in there. And while that's cooking, again, because meat can be so lean, I like to put a glaze on them. So I'm going to prepare a glaze. This is a disposable cutting board. So set this over to the side here. We'll come back to that later. And a glaze can be, it doesn't have to be anything complicated. I think that apricot goes really well with pork. So I'm going to take some Head Country barbecue sauce. This stuff is phenomenal. I'll get it at Amazon, but I'm sure you can get it just about anywhere. Just going to pour a little bit in there. You really don't have to have this much, but I've got another video that I'm fixing to do that I'm going to be using the same glaze on, so we're going to make a little extra. Put a little bit of water, I'd say half a cup, because you want to thin it down some. Then I'm going to put, to give it some shine and of course flavor, I'm going to put about, oh, that's great. That was graceful. I'm going to put about a half of this jar of apricot preserves in here. And this will make a beautiful and really tasty glaze once it cooks down. Just mix it up. And something else you can do, I just thought of this. At any time you're making a barbecue sauce, a glaze, or anything of that nature, if you want to repeat the flavors, you want to layer them, bring them over and over again. So I'm going to put a little bit of this rub in here, just maybe a tablespoon. There we go. To just reinforce that same flavors that we've already got going on the pork. Mix this up really well. And now I'm gonna put a little bit more water in it because we're gonna cook this down in the smoker. We're gonna get some smoke on the glaze. Of course, there'll be smoke on the meat, reinforcing the same flavors over and over. We're gonna smoke, and more smoke. There we go. You see, this is about the consistency that I want. And I'm probably going to get close to this consistency, just a little bit thicker when I apply it to the meat in the end. So that is ready. So we're going to put this right in the smoker. And let it cook alongside of our pork. So we're going to let that set. I'll check on it probably in about an hour, because a pork loin, any kind of a lean piece of meat, you want to cook it to about 145 degrees. So we're at 300 degrees. I think this will probably take about an hour and a half to cook, but I want to check it at 1 hour in to make sure that we don't overcook it. See you back then. Okay, it's been about an hour and a half, and it's time for us to temp this pork loin. Let's see where we're at. We're looking for about 145, maybe 150. There we go. And we are dead on 150. So it is time for me to glaze this. And let me get a glove on here. This thing's going to be hot. If you remember, this is the glaze that we made earlier with the apricot preserves and Head Country barbecue sauce. Now we're going to just paint that on liberally. Get it all the way around. Well, that looks pretty. Can't wait to do that. And this little piece of meat, it looks like it's small, but I mean, this is plenty for 3 or 4 people. So now we're going to let this set and tack up, and we'll check that back on it in about 10 minutes and see how it looks. Okay, we've let the glaze tack up, so now it's time to cut this thing up and see how it tastes. Before we do that, though, I'd ask that if you like what we're doing here, you'll consider subscribing to my channel and giving me a thumbs up. Now let's taste this and see how well we've done. It's got a pretty smoke ring, looking pretty nice. Looking really nice, actually. I'm going to get this end piece because this is my favorite. Nice and juicy. Mm. Folks, if you're going to get something, buy you a piece of meat that can feed your family for weeks to come, I suggest you get one of these whole pork loins. We'll put a link to the butchering video in the description below. And wow, I mean, look at the juice dripping off of this thing. And give it a try. I mean, it's absolutely delicious. Hope you all have a great evening. Until next time, keep the smoke rolling.